Told them I would never get into education. I know definitively that I would not be in the role that I'm in today if it wasn't for the Athletic Directors Association. Trying to get people to play hard, play together, play to the top end of their capability, that's where I think the secret sauce is. When you combine passion and some hard work with great mentors, I think great things can happen.
Hey everybody, my name is Pat Cohan, and for this THSADA Director's Cut, we're kicking off our Hall of Honor series as well as our podcast journey. That's right, this episode can be listened to on all your favorite podcast platforms, and in this series, we're featuring the 2025 Hall of Honor inductees. We kick off the series with Ray Zepeda, the UIL Executive Athletic Director, to talk about his path from the sideline to the UIL, the rollout and impact of the Texas Way Sportsmanship Initiative, legislative trends affecting athletic administrators, and how to lead with heart while balancing the demands of the profession. Before we dive into this episode, we do want to thank our partner, and that's PracticePlan.io, a zero-cost online platform that automates and streamlines your facility scheduling and rental process. It's been proven to boost district revenues while saving time for athletic departments. If you're interested, you can learn more at PracticePlan.io. Now let's dive into this masterclass on leadership, resiliency, and staying mission-driven in the face of change with Ray Zepeda, the UIL Executive Athletic Director. I've never seen you too tired or ever not A+. Do you have a secret to stay on top of that?
I don't know about A+, but I just think trying to realize how important when you are able to get in front of people. Yeah. I think that you realize that and want to obviously meet people where they are, do a good job for them, and take advantage of every opportunity. And that's typically kind of the environments that you see me in. You obviously don't see me when I get home at night, right? And so, I think it's just that, and I've always been able to work hard. I think that's one thing about me. I can work hard, and I'm passionate about this. I think you've remarked that before. I'm very passionate about what coaches and athletic administrators do, so I think I get energy from that.
And somebody that grew up in the Houston football family, coach there, you were a 5'10" receiver, wasn't going to go anywhere for playing in college, so you went to Texas A&M for your education. Where did that transition into? What's the story of transitioning into athletic administration?
Yeah, well, both of my parents were in education. Dad was a coach when I was little bitty, and my mom was a teacher and eventually a school counselor. My dad kind of progressed out of coaching to school administration, was a school superintendent for several small school districts. And, I kind of famously told them I would never get into education. And I was going to leave high school and go, get my political science degree and then go be a lawyer. And got up to college my first year there at A&M and really missed playing, missed being part of a team, missed being the atmosphere of athletics. And missed it so bad that I really even thought about trying to transfer and go to play, at some really small school where I could at least be part of it. And I finally realized it might be better for me to just go this route. And I've kind of never looked back. So I changed my major, got into education, went back to Corpus, my hometown, started coaching. And, it seems like I blinked my eyes and 30 years later, here we are. So it's been an amazing career, amazing time. It seems like I've gone from being the youngest coach on the staff to being a really old guy pretty quickly. But I wouldn't have said that this was how it would have ended up when I was 18 years old, for sure.
Well, and just announced here, we're at the Spring Sponsor Showcase here in March, but just announced you were going to be inducted into the THSADA Hall of Honor. And I know you've seen a lot of those presentations, you've helped organize a lot of those events, and now to be inducted, what's that feeling? What's that sense of accomplishment like?
Well, I think first and foremost, I have such great respect for the organization itself. I know definitively that I would not be in the role that I'm in today if it wasn't for the Athletic Directors Association. The opportunities to meet other people, to learn from others, I think really gave me, enlarged my skill set and allowed me to be successful and to be where I am today. So to receive this honor from my peers means a lot to me. It means recognition of many, many years of hard work. And again, considering the source, I think that's the greatest source of pride for me.
Well, and speaking of source, you are the source of information for athletic administrators when it comes to what's going on in the legislature, what's going on across the state. This is a massive state, and you do a really good job of giving the numbers of where we are with Texas Way and the impact that that's had everywhere, or where we are with whatever bill is coming through. So you do a very good job of giving everybody the information and the facts of what's there. There's rarely an opinion approach to it, unless it's trying to move this whole industry. And you're great at advising people. So I just want to compliment you on that, because it's very impressive. And as we go into your session here that's coming up, I want to see if we can't shine a little light of the current issues that ADs are going to be hearing about from your session, but also as we lead up into the state conference, why they need to be in tune with what's going on across state and legislature.
I'm going to kind of go broader to more micro, and I think, you mentioned the state legislature. Obviously, if you're even somewhat attuned to public education, you realize that here in Texas there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on trying to determine really the framework for what public education might look like in the future. And fortunately or unfortunately, we're not really able to give a public opinion on that because of our positions. But I do think education and awareness is important. And so I think, everything from school choice and the impact that it might have on UIL activities and what community-based athletics looks like. I think very, very important for people to educate themselves on that. I think we have 31 bills in front of the Texas legislature right now with the UIL's name on it.
Wow.
So, trying to just really encourage people to look at all 31 of those bills and educate themselves, and then make decisions for their own as far as to what they think is good for their communities, their schools, and their kids. From a more micro level, we did undertake a new state championship framework this year in most of our team sports other than football. And we're 2 kind of sports in. We've already gone through volleyball and are now culminating our basketball seasons. And so trying to educate people on the feedback that we're getting, both good and bad, and what that might look like as far as the future framework. And then I think health and safety is always important when you're talking about student participation. And so we've really tried to increase the quality of our resources, the amount of our resources when it comes to empowering athletic directors to facilitate safe participation in their kids. And so I've got a little bit of information today for athletic directors to try to, help them continue, especially in the heat, and what that might look like. And then finally, I think you're well aware, and you kind of just referenced it with an earlier question, we've really been trying to impact the response of our student athletes to adversity and trying to promote good sportsmanship across the state. Early results through the fall were very, very encouraging, and I'm going to share that with the group today. I think we've been a little bit disappointed in what basketball has looked like a little bit, and so there's going to be a little bit of a call to action there that we're going to need some help in trying to improve there, most importantly for our kids, because I do think that the highest calling that a coach has is to teach their student athletes how to appropriately respond to adversity. And when you look at the core root of all of our sportsmanship issues, it's an inability to respond appropriately when under some type of duress.
But they did such a good job with the launch of the Texas Way and the Sportsmanship Initiative, and I think what we're getting to is how do we keep that momentum. And so this conference is positioned strategically for that, right, to keep things going through, to finish strong. And the resources are there, the information about Texas Way is there. But one stat I heard recently from a leadership summit that was going on for THSCA, Stephen Mackey shared that 90+% of the ejections that occurred came from schools not involved in the Texas Way program.
Yeah, and that's exactly true. And Stephen and his team have partnered with us and the coaching association and all of our coaching associations and really taken our data, kind of crunch the numbers, look at engagement to see what that looks like, because we're trying to determine effectiveness. And it seems as if you're participating in the Texas Way in a formal fashion and engaging with that as a program, as a coach, and with your athletes, exposing your athletes to that it is having a positive impact. But the trick right now is to get more people to buy into to teaching that and to being engaged in an active way with the Texas Way program. You just mentioned 90% of our programs, our ejections, are coming from programs not actively engaged. So again, the question is, why aren't we engaged? What do we need to do to try to create more buy-in? And I don't necessarily think it's the Texas Way program, but I think when a coach commits to something like the Texas Way program, it shows that this is something that's important to them and important in their program. And those that aren't doing that, I think conversely, you can draw your own kind of suppositions of what that means, that maybe sportsmanship is not top of mind.
Well, and anytime you're trying to make change, you have to do the push-ups. If
Sure.
you don't do the push-ups, whatever the program is, whatever the strength plan is, if you don't show up to the gym and are intentional about making change, it's not going to happen.
Well, I think you've heard me say that. I don't know of any other skill that we teach as coaches to kids one time, and we expect, hey, they've got it, right? We have our daily fundamentals, and we drill those, and we drill those, and we drill those. We harbor no illusions. Coaches are trying to win. Kids are trying to win. They're going to be spending time on those fundamentals of their sport. But part of those fundamentals needs to include this appropriate response to adversity. And I would say that that's also a formula for winning. When you teach kids how to discipline themselves and be in control of themselves, that carries over into the actual playing of the game itself.
And we hear all the time, winning is the goal of the competition, but not the end goal of the process, the system that we've created here in Texas high school sports. Going back to your career and talking through some of the winning moments that you've had and where you maybe learned the most to be a better leader, what comes to mind as those points of inflection in your career?
Well, the winning and the times that I was able to win, those were all good times. And I can point to a number of games, close games that we were able to pull out, or seasons that were incredibly successful, and memories of bus trips back with kids and coaches where everybody had worked really, really hard to experience that, and the joy that you get from being together when a goal has been realized. But I would think that my leadership abilities have really been fostered through the other results. With the times when you haven't been successful, when you've worked really, really hard and it just hasn't come to fruition, and you're having to stand up in front of coaches and kids in a time of great disappointment and kind of rally the troops and figure out how do we move forward together. I think that that has more empowered me and informed kind of my leadership journey more so than anything else.
I'm going to stop you because I'm conflicted here. We just came from the resume review session, and I heard somebody say, hey, schools want winners. Schools want to see a history of winning. And if you're going to learn, you got to go through some losses, is kind of what I'm hearing from your statement. So how do you take a loss and turn it into a win to inevitably progress in your career? If you're not able to show the numbers, show the results, it's really hard to get hired or to get promoted.
It is, but I would hope too that people that are responsible for hiring for positions of importance, like coaches and athletic administrators, would look beyond the numbers too to the situations that those folks coached in. I know myself, I taught and coached in a lot of situations where probably game in, game out, we probably didn't have the superior talent base. But my passion was working in Title I schools and working with kids that might not have as much as others. And sometimes that comes with that. And so I would hope, I'm really proud of my record. I kind of tell people I'm right about a 500 coach, and might not have been able to, probably wouldn't have been able to be hired for certain jobs because people would have just looked at my record. But if they would have looked behind the numbers, they would have seen all the things that we did do with our kids and how we got them to play at their max capability. And I think that's what effective coaching is trying to get kids and coaches and everybody connected to that program to really red line up to the top of their capabilities. And I think anybody that's hiring, that's the person that you're looking for. Conversely, there's a lot of folks that win, and I could probably put a cardboard box over there and that team would still win. And so winning is always going to be an important metric in our business, but trying to get people to play hard, play together, play to the top end of their capability, that's where I think the secret sauce is.
It's fascinating because you are the athletic director for all the athletic directors here at the UIL. I mean, you have there's only one of you. There's not another athletic director for...
That's a hazard of this job, for sure.
But you've elevated to that level, and like you said, you were a 500 coach, did not play Division I athletics or college athletics at all, and there's something else there that elevated you to that role and to that post, and to be honored into the Hall of Honor for the Texas Athletic Directors Association. And where I'm getting with this rant here is a lot of what the Texas Athletic Directors Association is trying to do now is build pathways for impact, whether it's jams, Quad A, the local regional jams, the area jams, and I was one of those. So this is what I'm passionate about. Your story is I was a 5'10", didn't play college athletics at a high level, but want to have impact. And I look at your story and I see, okay, there is a path, just one that I probably have to make my own. And that's what you did.
Yeah, I think that, number one, I don't think that you can ever replace passion. People ask me about my playing career, somewhat assuming that because of where I am, that I had this illustrious playing career. And my number one comment is that my passion far exceeded my abilities. But that's 100% true. I was all about it. I was all about playing and all about the game and being a good teammate. But it's the passion, but it's also being exposed to great mentors. I worked for people that were just phenomenal. I worked for a head coach that when I was kind of first coming up that really delegated a lot of responsibility to me. And at times I felt a little bit overwhelmed by that, but it was building capability. Worked for someone that I consider to be one of the best athletic directors in the state, Ed Workin, who's now has since retired, was the AD at Galena Park and then also at Cy-Fair. Tremendous leader of people, tremendous skill level as an athletic director. And then I had a superintendent and Dr. Mark Henry that was one of the longest serving members of our legislative council that again was just an impactful leader. So when you combine passion and some hard work with great mentors, I think great things can happen.
I'm just kind of speechless in the sense that no one's going to market that today. No one's going to market passion today. I feel like we're marketing a lot of other things that lead to success, and you don't hear that part, that story anymore. So one, we got to tell that story, but then two, do you think we're losing what makes people passionate with all the changes that are proposed or happening here in high school athletics?
I don't know that. I think you got to bring your own purpose and passion to everything that you do, and if you're allowing an external factor to impact what drives you, I think that you're probably in the wrong business. So I never really depended on anybody else to get me motivated to do my job. I think that that's the job of the professional to do that. But I do understand that some of the external factors that are really coming into play for teachers and coaches now absolutely beat people down. And I think that's why it's important for athletic directors, all the people that are here, to understand that and then to try to figure out how do we have high standards for our people, but also find ways of encouraging them and pulling them along with us and getting them to overcome that adversity of some of the societal things that are going on. And sometimes they feel unappreciated. Like how do we increase the appreciation for coaches? How do we make sure that they know that they're valued and allow them to not have their passion extinguished by external factors?
And a popular phrase right now is coach fed, not coach led. And I feel like that's what we're trying to get to, is feeding our athletic administrators and feeding our coaches that are passionate, that are at their core belief, want to have impact in this space, and giving them the resources or giving them the ability, the food, the fuel that'll help them do that more, whether it's appreciation, support, education.
One of the things I'm going to close with today, in my presentation is I was listening to a podcast recently, and the head football coach at Tulane kind of started talking about not allowing things that are chaotic in the college sports scene to impact his joy, than the joy that he has in the job. And I think that's one thing I'm going to close with today, is to say that, there's a lot of chaos kind of going on around us, a lot of noise. And, me personally, I'm trying to make the decision that I'm really going to be focused in on the purpose that I bring to the job every day, the really process for improvement of kids, coaches, and activities, and trying to really understand what it did for me as a young man, as I now am an old man, and trying to foster just a positive experience for the next generation of athletes and coaches, because I think it's that important.
How do you do that with the amount of time it seems to take to have massive impact? I was just talking to you before we started recording, all the different places you are and all the different things you're doing, initiatives, and how do you do that with others, family members or other people, that loved ones? How does the Zepeda family keep this train moving?
Well, what you find over time is the train leaves the station too. So, I'm afraid that at times, I'm embarrassed to admit, I think there were times my family got left behind, as I was chasing other things that were important to me. But I've also, they've been right there along the way in the journey and kind of right by my side. My wife has been tremendous. She loves athletics. I don't know how we would do this if she didn't have the same type of passion for kids. She's an educator as well for activities. And my kids the same way. They love sports. And
I'm going to stop you here because I get that. But there have had to been some hard conversations inside the house that have made things better. And I'm looking for advice too. I travel a lot. I do a lot of these shows. My wife's a college coach. So we are in a very tough situation in terms of the travel needs and all the priorities we're passionate about. So one-to-one, what advice would you give, or what real life story have you gone through that might help someone like me, someone like an AD that's trying to have massive impact? I just want you to get real with me.
I think it's the quality of the time that you spend. And so I've heard someone say that's the misnomer and it's about quantity of time. Well, I wasn't able to give my kids the quantity of time. And so I tried to give them the quality of time. I think that I also tried to model for them kind of what our family mantra is, which is we were always going to give our very best effort in everything that we do.
Yeah.
We kind of have a joke that we're kind of a lunch pail, hard hat kind of family. And I've tried to model that mentality. And I think that they've learned a lot, I hope, of positive things from watching how I've attacked my job, while still obviously being very well attuned to what's going on in their lives and in the activities that are important to them. And I'm very proud of them. And I think that when I look at where they are, my youngest is now a sophomore in college, and I have two out that are exceedingly successful. They've learned the lesson. They work hard, they treat others right, and they're passionate about what they do.
The Zepeda name comes with a brand. Like, you've established the brand of we make big things happen. We work hard. We are passionate. And I going back to our first conversation, our first subject here of what we're trying to build here with high school sports, it's that. I mean, those intangibles that you can live with forever. I mean, you traded 4 years of playing a small college sport for 40 years of impact and learning how to be a great leader. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I go back to, though, and I said this recently, I was able to go to my football coach's 50th wedding anniversary this past summer. They invited me, and man, I thought, what a great honor. Yeah. But when I went there, really it was the environment that he created for myself and my teammates on a daily basis that I missed so much that I've been chasing for the past 40 years. And so that's the impact of a coach. And I think that's where the passion comes from, is trying to replicate what I experienced, and hopefully the next generation is going to be able to experience those type of activities.
So as you are in your kind of swan song of your career, right, probably the last stop, if you will, in this space. I don't really know where else you go unless you become the president of high school sports in America. What do you want to see? If you did get that post, if somebody said, Ray, we're going to elect a president of high school sports who oversees all American high school sports, what would you want to have happen?
Well, I love the way that we do it here in Texas. I think that the community-based approach to education and athletics, where you have kids that represent their communities, that go all out for the name on the front of their jersey, that sounds awful corny, but I think it's really important. I would love to see everybody buy into that model, and I hope that people in Texas here really realize how special that is and how atypical that is when you compare it to things that are happening in our space around the nation. And I think it's trying, again, it's to teaching kids how to respond to adversity. It's coaches coaching for the right reasons. It would be all of those things as we chase, what's individually our best for our kids.
How do we achieve that without holding back progress in sports?
I think that it takes people, first of all, telling the stories of everything amazing that's happening in our schools, amplifying that. But I think you also have to be adaptable. One of the things that we're trying to do is to prepare kids for a modern world and for what's coming next. We have to be able to change and adapt and to meet the challenge of the times. So we need to take the best of what we've always done and combine that as far as to what is better. We're always chasing better, and improving the experience for kids and for communities.
Well, that's definitely been your legacy as far as where every stop you've been from all the different schools and school districts that you've represented, and now the UIL. If you were to be given the mic for every individual in the high school sports space here in Texas, what would be your send-off and what would be your advice as they go into, starting their either spring seasons here in 2025 or going into their fall seasons?
I think, first of all, that coaches, I've said this, I used to say this to our coaches very, very often, that kids have never need effective coaches more than they do so today. With all that's going on with mental health and with the social media and the things and the challenges that a modern kid faces, they need people pouring into them in a positive way, more so today than ever. So I think that if I would encourage all coaches and all athletic administrators to remember, in the midst of maybe some challenging circumstances going on around us, to always make it about the kids, to try to pour life into them every day, to reflect on the things that made a difference, that caused you to kind of enter this profession, and be about those things. And I think that if we can do that, there's always going to be a place for coaches in coaching. I think the second that we step away from that central mission, that's where we're kind of endangering, our sports and our activities long term. And I think that over time, that parents and communities will value that, respect that, and will hold on to that. The other thing I would say is we've got to tell our story about the million amazing things that are going on our campuses on a daily basis. I don't think there's enough positive that's out there, and we've got to find more and more ways of getting those messages out in the general public. Our communities need things that bring them together. I used to say in Cyprus that there would be more people come together for our athletic events than probably anything else that happened in our community. So we need to somehow latch onto that, because right now, just in society, people are pulling apart. I think we can use our activities to bring people together.
Yeah, it's more of a fuse instead of a fragment, and that's what we're seeing. So, Ray, it's an honor to help you share that message, and it's always good to see you. So best of luck in your session that's coming up here on the Spring Sponsor Showcase stage, and best of luck with all the different seasons you got to follow and help out with.
I appreciate all the work that you do, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today.